All right, it's 6:07. I'm going to call the budget workshop to order. I'm going to ask for, actually, let's move on to the pledge of allegiance. Sarah?
Flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All members of the board are present. Before we get into the presentations, I'd ask just for a brief recess while I go grab the copies off the machine.
Make a motion for a 3-minute recess.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it is 6:12. We're back. Now I've got the share from the other screen so that everybody can see the same thing. All right, so now we've got the budget up on the screen. There was a request from Chief Bancroft to do Broadbrook Fire, not at the end. We could go through our presentations and then go to Broadbrook Fire, do Broadbrook Fire, and then go to our presentations and then take up our budget. What do you want to do?
Let's do the fire.
Okay.
Make a motion to take Broadbrook Fire out of order.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. So, there it is. Okay. So this is their budget. I think it's actually too big. They've got significant changes in their fire marshal stipend going down. Not significantly, a couple grand. I'm going by the percentages. Fire incentives going up by about 15%. 27th payroll, although it's a very de minimis amount, but that's going up by 180%. Fire annuities up 8.8%. Professional services 15%. Although again, it's only like a $300 difference. Phones up 61%. Building maintenance up 111%. Dispatch down 38%. Fire marshal supplies down 36%. Dues and fees up 28%. And CIP allocation up 50%. Those are the percentage changes, not the dollar amount. So that some of that might be a little bit misleading. Anything anybody want to discuss?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So as far as the building maintenance and utilities at the 49,000, were there hard numbers that were looked at based on what we're previously have been spending over the years through what Lenny was talking about with Public Works, how that was typically in the town property budget? So is this an accurate amount?
Joe, you worked with the fire department to break out the numbers to operate the building, right?
No, Teresa worked with Tom.
Okay, so Public Works coordinated with the department.
And we're not double budgeting that is taken out of the actual town property budget?
No,
No,
because we're picking up a building.
again, big meeting center. Right, but. Okay, that's not the same building, so, okay, I can address it then. Okay, just wanted to make sure this 49,000 was accurate number.
What's the total, because I can't see that far,
On the bottom line,
the bottom line?
1.197671. Just shy of 1.2 million.
Sure, they did give us the breakdown of those.
That's what we
And I wrote
originally
them
had.
down.
How could it be the
So
same
that should
if
all be
they've
done
gone
for
up?
it accounts.
That's where the original was. They said they made changes up there. How can it be the same?
This is the percentage of change over last year.
But they did make changes.
So if you want to look at, I'm going to freeze these paints so we can see them better.
They made changes to their, go to capital improvement.
Capital improvements up
I mean,
50%.
go
But
to
see,
CIP allocation.
see the original budget and then they did a revised one. So originally they didn't have the $49,000 in there for the building maintenance. They added that, but then they adjusted salaries down. So there's two columns there, show the original that they originally submitted and then the follow-up.
It's in read-only mode, so you can't freeze anything, or you have to like save it to your computer or open it up. Or...
So can we get an updated sheet here?
You should have you don't have one that says 1197?
Yeah, 1197.
That's the
671.
one that we're asking for.
So under CIP allocation,
They have 300,000.
200,000, 300,000, and 100,000. The change was 100,000.
Yeah.
So this is the actual one, but they just moved the money within the budget of what they did.
No, originally they got for a lesser amount. Their first ask was for 1189,171. It come up to about $8,000. What I originally, but that 300 was already in there. Going from 200 to 300
Right.
CIP. They just did some reallocating. They took down planning a little bit. Put in the building maintenance. Budget that's going to be voted on is the one that's in front of you right now is the 1197,671.
I don't remember in your presentation if you talked about why the dues and fees were up 12 something.
Yeah, they could do some, is that where the, incentive program, no, I don't have.
The incentive has its own.
Line 33 on there.
Their year-to-date actually was high. You spent 48 grand on the year, Jerry? 48 grand on the year? Yeah. On a budget of, well, I don't know what your revised is, but last year was 32. This year you're at 48.
That's where the email accounts came out. Getting everybody their own email.
Was it that or was it the?
Discussion part of this year.
Oh, the Outlook, everybody, no, that was last year, right?
But that was in this current year that you're seeing, see how the number
Yeah.
went from.
So the dues and fees
Gotcha.
went up because of the increase in the firefighters that we took in. We took in 15 new members,
That's what I was wondering if it was related to that.
which is gonna increase the firefighter one that they're gonna have to go. As well as we have more people looking to take EMT and EMR classes. The other increase was the annual key fob system. To maintain, not maintain it, to run it loud so that we have.
Oh, that's right.
Stuff.
You did mention that.
Then there was the 5,000 that we didn't put in last year for the Fire Rescue One Academy, the online training that we have for the members. This time of year, especially, we do a lot of online training to get the mandatories out of the way, hazmat. Yeah, bloodborne, all that stuff that they can do online, and we use it throughout the year. It's not just, but because of the cold weather, we don't get out as much. It's predominantly, a lot of it's,
Gotcha.
the winter months. So that was a 12,500 increase on that. In that line for dues and fees.
Thanks.
Additional 100,000 in the CIP is put towards eventually a new building, is that correct? That's what I have written. here. Just
Yeah,
wanna
my
make
understanding is it was for the engineering costs around checking out a building.
Yeah, the thought is to start that line reoccurring every year. with the initial 100,000. If the budget passes to start that engineering and get a set of plans, so we can get an actual cost of the building. But then every year that would just, you know, much like the truck, it's gonna start going because at some point, the facility does have to happen. Even if it takes 20 years, you want $2 million in there, so, which isn't gonna be hardly enough for anything, but they'll help pay for
most
offset costs or soft, you know, purchases like all the computers and stuff that goes inside of it. They'll help defer costs.
So to date, you guys had a contractor come in and look at the existing building and made recommendations on that. And then you did the schematics for a proposed building somewhere.
Mhm.
And there was no average cost estimates and nothing made on it.
Yeah, their best guesstimate was an $850 a square foot for the building, which is going to put it around 18 million.
So then the next step would then hire an engineer.
We're hoping we can hire the same firm to actually get a blueprint of the building, the actual layout, what it's going to look like, so we can actually get a hard cost of what the building is probably going to cost.
But you have an estimated cost right now.
Of 18. I'm hoping through that process, we can decide on the types of construction materials which is going to affect that square footage cost and layouts and the square footage of rooms and stuff like that. Once we know that, then we can get a hard price. And like I mentioned at the presentation, that's kind of an important thing because if we find a source of revenue, whether it's to get state bonding or find a grant, something to help offset the costs of taxpayers. We need a ready to go idea of exactly what we need. You can't just say, we think we need 18 million, we're not gonna give you anything. If we have a set of plans, some type of funding comes up. You know, if it's 10 years down the road, you're gonna have to take it off the shelf and redo the numbers, because I'm sure construction costs are gonna go up, or materials change. All that, but at least you'd be able to.
You could take the plans and get an updated cost and you're ready to roll. Amy, you and I had talked about so they have a CNR line, which is funding their fire truck, and they have a fund balance, right?
Yep.
Explain the difference
So the fund balance is within their fund of the 2820 fund
outside of ours.
in a special revenue fund,
Okay.
right? Because their revenue is set up separately. They can the own revenue, they expend their own money. At the end of the year, it stays in that fund, just like every other special revenue fund we have at the town. So yes, and there's a total of 244 in there right now,
Okay.
but that's surpluses from the first 3 years of operating.
And we have used that. We use that for the fob system. Is that right?
Yep, we used $23,000 and we used some for the consultant. The first consultant they paid for,
H2M.
I guess so.
There. Is that where that was originally paid for out of, was the fund balance?
Well, it was over expended in the line, and then they came back and got an appropriation out of, for not this year, but last year.
To cover the difference. Okay.
Yep. And then this year is the building security system,
Which was how much?
23,000 and change.
And that's already out.
Yep, it's in, you'll see it in those numbers, why you're going up a certain percent, because for the 49, the 23 is already in there as the revised budget. So that number had no, building maintenance had no number in it when we first passed the 24-25 budget, and the budget was for 105, and if you look now, that number isn't 105 anymore.
Yeah, it's 1028.
Right.
That's the 23,000.
Yep.
Okay, so there's $250,000 sitting in their fund balance, and they have CNR funding, but the CNR funding is all dedicated towards the truck.
Yeah, the $562,000 and the 503 of it in April when the truck arrives. And then another 95 comes July 1st.
Nobody knows the truck is coming in April.
Yeah, but didn't you put that 500 and what was it, 556,000 something? You said you had already put that aside?
Well, that's in that CNR.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the fire vehicle CNR account. It has 562 and they need 503 of it. So there'll be very little left in that account.
536,456 is due.
Yeah, I think-
Due. Okay, yeah, 536,456 out of this.
And they have 562.
I think it's gonna leave us with like, 25,700. And then.
But you guys reload in July, so
But if the budget passes, there'll be another 200 or 300. But the 200 for the truck will be in there, so it'll be 227 will be in that line. And then that August, another 95 will come out, so.
and then it's annually in August until you pay it off?
Yep.
How many more payments do we have? Like 6?
This is payment. number
70.
3 coming up, and I think there's 7 total, so.
7
4
years.
after this year, after this August.
Okay, so you guys will start putting together a truck committee for the next one, probably in 2 years? Well, maybe 1 year, at the rate they're going.
Right now, it's 3 to 4 years out, so, the truck is in 2008. So in 3 years, it's gonna be 20 years old, so.
Wow, I've been around a
we
long
Start the
time.
process now, by the time it reaches 20, 21 years old, we should get a delivery of another truck, but we have to, keep an eye on that fund and make sure we can afford it.
You're gonna replace the 2008?
Depends on, if it's giving us problems, recommend it. If it's status quo and it's not costing a lot in repairs, through the age and everything else, we could probably stretch it out. That's something that we're gonna have to just keep an eye on.
I remember when you bought that one.
Is the 240 some thousand dollars that's in the fund balance? Is there a separate account with the unencumbered CIP money?
Yeah.
Is there like another $200,000 of CIP money sitting in another account?
There's
In
the
addition
CNR
to-
line,
No,
and
there's
there's,
$562,000 in their CNR account, which is in our 3005 fund. And then their 244 is in their 2820 account.
So where does the CIP allocation go to?
It comes to the town CIP account.
And
And then all the bills get paid out of there.
it's set aside for the Broadbrook Fire Department. So is that separate than the fund balance at 240?
yes.
And it's separate than from the money that's being used to pay for the fire truck?
No,
It's
It
part of
is
the money.
it is the money being used to pay for the fire truck.
Okay, so how much is in there right now for the CIP money?
562 and they need 536 of it.
Okay,
So they'll have a little tiny bit left.
right. So I just wanted to make a comment. I'm going to vote for this because I think the public should vote on it. But I know Nick gave a presentation the other night about the process here, and there was another option to get the money for the architect's fee and the engineering fee, and that was to go out for a special appropriation, which I think has got some benefits because you get the public involved. They vote for it. They're part of it. They have, they're part of the thing and they see what's happening and
If
Go ahead.
I could just.
Yeah.
comment on it. We talked about it for the meeting. after
Yeah.
we left. The only problem with doing an added appropriation or.
special appropriation.
Special appropriation.
Right.
is Pulling from the entire town's budget, which is going to affect the district's general funds. Which
Right,
is not really the right way to do it.
Yeah.
Now they're paying for something for a fire department that they have nothing to do with.
so that's fair, and I thought about that too, and there should be a mechanism. There's got to be the ordinance doesn't address it specifically, but it says that the Broadbrook, I call it Broadbrook, other than Warrell's Point, will pay for the capital improvements, right? And pay for these expenses. So the mechanism for special appropriation vote and, where the money's going to come from is not really addressed in the ordinance. The downside of it is that, we had $100,000 and I hear what you're saying about build it up, but realistically, that's just money that's going to accumulate. That's going to be a small amount of the total cost. And so the taxpayers are paying into a fund that's being built up over time. And, I don't know how I guess you'll have to have a vote on the CIP list if you want to reallocate it to expenses related to other things like, equipment for capital equipment. But I mean, in the future, you may need more money my concern is you'll need more money for operating expenses, she talked about, and then you'll go out to the budget and people will be like, it's going up so high, and they may say no, and you're going to be kind of crunched. And I'm not a big fan of building up accounts Like, because this changes the budget. That's the whole point. This changes the bottom line. So if you get us through this vote, that's good, because now every year it's that much higher. I'm not a big fan of like just doing that approach. But I did also think about the issue with the special appropriation. I know that's a problem. And you just can't have a public hearing and vote on it. And then the question is who votes? Because the town meeting requires everyone votes. The ordinance doesn't address it. Probably should have put something in there to address it. Okay, that's it.
Any other questions or comments?
So are we looking at making our recommendation?
Yes, and then it goes to the Board of Finance and they do the same.
Well, I question this $100,000 that you're asking for. I question it because right now, we know that everything on a federal level, we know that there's going to be ripple effects moving down towards the state level. That Keith made, if I got it clarified in my mind, is that $100,000, that's a no brainer for the townspeople, or to sit in an account for 10 years for something that may or may not ever happen. So I would say for this year, until we know where funding is going to be going in the future, I would say that's a big ask for the community.
Okay. Sarah or Al?
I'm in support of it the way it is. I think that the 100,000 is a smart way, whether you end up using it. Well, obviously, we need the shovel-ready plans. Got to do that to get to any source of other revenue. So, and then if, this money is not used for the building because the building is not built, it certainly can be used to offset the cost of the next truck. Like anything that we don't have to borrow money for, that money's sitting here, earning interest, whatever. It's money ready at hand for the next truck, which is just around the corner. So I think that it's a smart way of doing things and not having to like borrow or bond or any of that makes sense to me. And I think if the public understands what their plan is and trusts them and agrees with it, then that's the way it goes. I think the public should have a say in it. And I think it's a good question to ask. This is going to referendum. Everybody that's on Broadbrook's side can, give their opinion on this by voting. So I'd rather just send it right to the voters and see what they got to say about it.
I do agree with Alan. I know when the fire commission has been coming to us over the past few years, I think that they've been very conservative, but they've also been planning ahead, and rather than waiting till the last minute for everything and being in a bind for something and having no plans on how to rectify situations and, planning for trucks and planning for the expansion of a building down the road. I think it's a good thing to have those plans ahead rather than not doing any action. I do have some concerns though, like on a town-wide level, as far as, new firehouse, new police station, new schools. And I don't think we have a plan as a community on what we're gonna do with our buildings, what the time frame is. I think all of this happening at once is going to be an issue. It's not possible for us to do all that in the same amount of time. I think that's a huge concern for our taxpayers and for our community. So I think that we all need to have a conversation on what the town-wide plan is for our buildings. That's sooner rather than later. But I do think that this should go to the voters and let the voters decide. But I do commend the commission on actually putting, thinking ahead and how they'll be able to pay for things down the road rather than not doing anything and then coming to us saying, we need a new truck and we have to bond or borrow, and we can't do that. So I'm in support of the budget.
Correct. I think that's everybody. You guys want to make a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the Broadbrook Fire Department budget proposed budget at 1,197,671. Send to the Board of Finance.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-1. Okay, now we go back to presentations. First up is benefits. All right, so just walking through benefits, 27th payroll, as I explained before, that's just a part of a cycle as it advances up based on the number of weeks outside of 26 pay periods in the fiscal year. FICA is tied to employee compensation and contractual agreements. The pension share, so that's the pension share is, that's from our actuary, and they give us our actuarial defined contribution. That includes both our annual contribution to the pension and the smoothing over what's we gotta be close to the end of 20 years.
We're down to 10,
Is that it?
Yeah.
I haven't been around that long, I guess.
but we're going to leave it at 10. She's talking about bifurcating, leaving the 10, splitting out over the next 10 years and then accounting for the more recent stuff instead. But we are down to 10 coming in the next year.
401A and a 457 match, that's also contractual.
How am I going to,
I'm sorry.
how am I going to, 24, 25?
Well,
25,
it would be the column L, which is 25, 26 BOS. Other post-employment benefits is also contractual. Tuition reimbursements is being kept flat. We don't have anybody who's currently enrolled in a degree program, but we do have people who are taking certification programs who have compensation for that upon their completion. The CCMO program has been very popular, although I think I shared at the last Selectmen's meeting that that's transitioning to something else. And they're going to be rolling that out in May or June. Unemployment compensation is flat. Workers' comp is flat. Healthcare right now, we're budgeting, are we 9.5 or 10?
10.
Okay, so they gave us a renewal window of between 10 and 12 with a county adjustment of 0.5% down for Hartford County. So our window will be somewhere between 9.5 and 11.5. As of right now, in March, they're supposed to be giving updated renewal numbers for the state healthcare plan. And that should come into a bit more focus as to what that number is going to be. Over the past couple of years, and past performance is an indication of future performance, but the renewal numbers that they have given us have been below what their original estimates were. So we're budgeting on the low side of the range for what they had recommended.
This is based on current enrollment. Whoever has what plans with vacancies being in there and anybody we know who's getting married or having children being accounted for.
And the assumption is that the vacancies are full family plans, right?
Yes.
Heart and hypertension, this is also just kind of a placeholder. I thought you and I had discussed that this was someplace we could take money out of.
No, this is the one that I moved the current year expenditures over to the other heart and hypertension fund. We
Yeah,
already took money out, and then this year we got slammed. We had 1 month's bills of $68,000
okay.
for a procedure for a person that's on it.
And then we have employee physicals. That's both pre-employment physicals and the randoms that, or the employee physicals for like public works and police. And that's employee benefits for total benefits increase of 5.07%.
which is down from what we originally.
Yeah, and the changes we made together, Jay and I, as we sat through. So like originally I thought pension was going up, and then the pension people came and said that some of them could remain flat and a few others had small increases.
So the 50,000 that I come up with my quick math is accurate, what we reduced it by.
60,000,
Almost
64,000.
65.
Yeah. So if you look at this column, that's what the original submission was. That's what my recommendation is, and BLS.
That's Board of Education. And 866.
Department head.
So I originally asked for 3,804. And it went down to 3,740.
Down to 3740. Yeah, I got that.
Which is $180,000 more than last year. With
What did I
156
miss
of
as
it
far
being
as
embedded.
reduction? I got the pension, with the third line down, pension went down,
Health insurance went down.
the health insurance went down. One went down 18, one went 32. What else went down? What did I miss?
Pension,
B and J,
pension,
Yeah.
health insurance, and 27 payroll.
27 payroll, went down
27.
7,000,
Okay, from 52 to,
From
from 65 to
65
52.
almost to 13.
So 65 to 52, it's 3. 13, that's 13,000.
13, 32 in the DB pension. And medical insurance went down about 18.
Questions or comments on employee benefits?
I had a question on, so the, well, the next lines, the non-negotiated wages,
That's the next,
That's
the
not
last one
employee
we're gonna do. We're not on that one
doing
yet.
that next.
Yep.
So it looks like it's got extra in it that we don't necessarily need.
What?
$6,000 for tuition reimbursement. It hasn't been at that level in a while.
Contractually, we have obligations to all the unions. And nobody budgets for it anywhere but in here. So if somebody in a union chose to go to school, we would have an obligation that we wouldn't have any money for.
And then we would do a transfer like we should be doing. We go to the Board of Finance and say, we're over budget, we need to do a transfer. So we build extra money into the budget that is just in case, but it's not based on historical data. And then we end up with a 5% increase on a $3.7 million budget, which is a lot of money. So, but my bigger issues are with the next two, so I'll just wait for those.
Any other questions or comments on employee benefits? Next up is debt service. Here. So we did reduce this number, or this department line a number of years ago and transferred the money to capital improvement. Because in the event the town goes out to bond, we want to keep some additional capacity available so that it lessens the impact on taxpayers. But we also had the money available. So the decision at that time, you'll recall, was to put it towards one-time expenditures, which is capital projects costs on an annual basis. So when we go out to bond, whenever that time is, there we'll have to take did we move 200 or 300,000?
200.
200,000 out of the CIP and put it back in debt service. Otherwise, this is, Well, it's going up by, why is it going up by 3.64% versus 2%?
Because did we do a transfer out already? I had originally done it 2%. Our numbers were 628. No, 317, 946. I don't know. You picked flat numbers.
Oh, that probably is it, actually. Questions, comments on debt?
Well, yeah, this is what we had in the debt service in our vote.
So I asked for the 866. And Jay
Well-
said, nope,
I don't have 866 anywhere.
on your debt service in the 26 request.
No,
Department head request. Column,
866, all right, I'm looking at the total. Okay, so 866.5, right? 860, okay, so you left that the same.
I didn't touch this.
330. Okay, so that's what you asked for, and this is the column where you're changing.
Yeah, he cut it down
down.
to 650. Moving that same 200,000+ over to CIP again.
So you took 200,000 out of here and moved it into CIP.
Yep.
Yes.
Because you took it out of CIP.
Nope.
No, because it is.
It's not gonna be spent in the debt service right now.
When we restart the budget every year, Amy reflects that it is actually money that's supposed to be in debt service.
Yeah.
Because we didn't, the intention was that is debt service money that we are reallocating for one-time capital expenses.
Gotcha.
So once the one time is over, she
It's gotta go
resets
back.
it into debt, so we
Gotcha.
can, there's history to show.
Okay, gotcha.
We're
But the,
currently spending about $500,000 in our deadline.
well, in the last year that you show here, actuals, 23, 24, it was
458.
$326,000. Oh, I'm sorry, in principal.
458.
Principal, I'm starting with principal. We have so the current budget is $300,000 over, more than $300,000 over what our costs are.
Yes.
And in interest, we're over $200,000 more than our costs are. So we
No.
have, yeah, you have
Because our total spent was 458 on a budget of 900 and something.
yeah, you're budgeting,
So there's only
500.
$400,000 between the two lines.
you're budgeting $500,000 over our actual costs for both principal and interest.
No.
Yeah, so in 23, 24,
We spent 458.
right.
So how from 900 and something does 458 give you $500,000?
981 minus 458 is $500,000. It's over $500,000.
And it's to save the debt capacity.
Yeah, so that's, right, let me finish.
If we don't,
Yeah, so, yeah,
we
so,
move 200 to CIP
right,
to help there with CIP projects.
yeah, so that's my point. So every year we budget, this year, just talk about this year, you're proposing, and this happens every year. We budget $500,000 more than our actual needs. And then we move the money to like CIP, but it was never budgeted for CIP. We're going into this budget knowing that we're building an extra $500,000 into the budget above our actual needs so that later on we can move it to CIP. How is that fair to the taxpayer?
So we have the debt capacity when we need to go borrow money.
When we borrow money,
We don't have debt capacity if we dropped it all the way to $458,000.
see, that's completely, I don't understand that absolutely at all. If we go out and we bond
You
money,
know about 2%, right?
if,
So 2% of 458 does not give us any money to borrow anything.
if we go out and we bond, if we
There
get,
will be no bonding.
can I finish? If we go out and we get a vote to bond money, to borrow money,
We still have the 2% rule on the budget.
no,
Yes, we do.
that's not, our charter allows us to bond money. Every town borrows money, and when they borrow money at that time,
This town doesn't borrow money.
we never borrow money, we don't borrow money.
2019 for a roof was the last money we borrowed in this town.
Yeah.
We did not borrow money.
When the fire department, not you guys, when the Broadbrook Fire Department wants their firehouse, they're gonna borrow money. When the schools, need to build new schools, they're gonna borrow money.
How's that fit into a 2% budget?
I'm not talking about 2% budget, I'm talking about the fact
But
that,
that's a reality.
Can I just- listen, this is a fundamental problem with budgeting. We add an extra $500,000 in the budget, which is above the necessary cost for just in case. When we borrow money, we have a right to charge the taxpayers for the bonding cost. That's what happens. The borrowers vote. There's going to be a vote for bonding money, and the taxpayers have to pay for it.
No, that's not how our charter
So,
read.
so every year we put in an extra $500,000 and just keep building it up and spinning it over to CIP money without the public even knowing what's happening. And we just move it over to somewhere else and just spend it because it's padded. It's padded this year by $500,000. Shouldn't we be budgeting for actual costs? We shouldn't. Okay, so the treasurer doesn't believe we should be bonding for actual costs.
Keith, I would ask you to keep things respectable.
I'm being respectful. She's telling me that this is the way to do this. Okay, I'll try to take it
Can I
down.
ask a
Yeah,
question?
go ahead.
And then you can go back to it.
Yeah.
So if we keep this bonding, but the debt service at this level, then we go bond for X amount of dollars for whatever, it fits into that budget line, and the next budget, the taxpayer doesn't get a big hit because all of a sudden now we've increased $500,000, right? So this leaves that. It's basically the same thing that Broadbrook is doing by putting away money, where instead of having this big cliff that you jump off when you bond money, we're at a level that we have capacity for. So now we could bond money for CIP, right?
Okay.
Right? But instead, we're taking that extra money that we're not utilizing today, but will likely be using next year or the year after, and cutting down the CIP, which everybody agrees is important stuff that we should be doing.
Yeah.
Correct? So this is just keeping the budget level so we don't have swings up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
And then we vote on moving things to CIP. We vote on what CIP projects we want to do. Everybody gets involved at the town level on that piece. That's even separate. Okay, I just want to make sure I understood.
So I understand your point, Alan, but we're not actually keeping the budget level. For example, we're spending $1.2 million on fund balance to pay for this. So we're taking money from fund balance to pay for this excess $500,000. And I agree, it's similar to the Broadbrook Fire Department, what they're doing on a much smaller scale. This year, we're going to have an extra $500,000 we're taxing above our actual costs. The budget has gone up now by $500,000 in this line item. Next year, we're going to tax $500,000 above our actual costs. And if we don't build a project for 2 or 3 years, we've overtaxed the people without overtax. We've taxed an additional $1, $2, $3 million for costs that aren't even occurring right now. And I understand, plan for the future and everything, but this is a 5% plus budget increase. We're taking $1.2 million from the fund balance to pay for this. And the problem is, here's the problem. They don't keep the money in that account for future bonding. The money is just going to get transferred over to CIP and spent on something else that wasn't approved within the budget. That's the problem. This money doesn't stay here.
Our
In fact,
CIP plan has been approved.
if the money will get transferred, as the finance director just said, $200,000 last year got transferred from this account to CIP. So the money doesn't actually stay in this account to do future bonding. It doesn't build up like the Broadbrook Fire Department. It just gets spent every year. How is that helpful?
So the way I look at it, on a smaller scale is like if I've got a savings account at my house and I've got things I want to do to improve my house, capital improvements, I want to put a roof on, I could bond, right? I could get a loan, I could get a home equity line, pay interest on that, or I could just pay it out of the money that I've saved, which is cheaper for me, right?
Right. So the
It's
question.
cheaper for the taxpayer in the long run too.
So if I agree completely, if the town can afford an extra $500,000 in this line item, whether we shift it over to CIP and spend it on capital or whether we keep it in there for future bonding, that's fine. If the town is wealthy enough to pay for this every year. But that $500,000 represents, what is it? I mean, I don't know what it represents in the mill rate, the total budget, but $500,000 represents 4 teachers in the schools. They're talking about laying off, not teachers per se, but I think support staff. They had 4 or 5 people on the chopping block. The Board of Ed needs some money. So we put it here just in case. So I understand we're having a budget debate, right? What are our priorities? Is the priority to put it into this account and keep it here and park it there? Or is the priority to reduce spending? Or is the priority to put it in other things that we need? I'm just pointing out that this is, and I think we have an agreement, or Amy agrees with me. This is $500,000 above our needs.
I don't think that is.
I think
what
we're
you said.
both seeing, we're all seeing, well, we're
Yeah.
seeing it differently. I think we're definitely, you and I are differently anyway. I won't speak for anybody
Yeah.
else, but you and I are seeing it differently. I feel like this is in the long run, number one, it gives the taxpayers a level kind of budget instead of going up and down wild swings every year. Number two, it saves money in the long run because we're not bonding for dump trucks and all this other stuff that we're buying at a CIP, whether it's roofs or whatever it is, we're just taking care of that interest-free. To me, that's the smarter, long-term way to go.
And I would rather put the money in the CIP budget, just be upfront, say this money is for CIP.
But
rather
then
than
you're,
parking
but
it
then
there.
you're cutting out of this other one, and then that has to be raised. And now the CIP budget has gone up, and this has gone down, and now that's got to go up. So, and that's when you get an actual increase in the budget that's above, I mean, you say it's 5%, but I mean, it's 0.39 mill rate.
Well, that's because we'll get to this later. The revenue is coming from different sources that aren't from tax
The
revenue.
revenue is what they are, though. That's, I mean,
Once
it's reality.
taking money from the fund balance isn't new
I mean,
revenue.
that's getting into it. We'll get
Different
into that
discussion.
later, but.
Right, right.
All right,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna move on to contingency because I want to wrap this up before we move into the selectmen's meeting. I have 3 minutes to do it. So there's 2 lines in contingency. The first one is I can't see what I'm doing here. The first one, the smaller of the 2 is the true contingency line, which is just in case small things break line. And you can see based on the history that we have historically not returned anything to this line. Right now, we have a standing balance of $13,330 off of an original $500,000 budget. So we're just keeping the same status quo there. The other one is non-negotiated wages. This is where we park what is anticipated for contractual increases for any employees who are out of contract. In this line right now, that includes 2 years worth of the supervisors, 1 year of the police department, 1 year of clerical employees. What that also includes, I'm asking the board to do an added 1% to the unaffiliated employees and permanent part-time employees. And I can explain, that they historically are underfunded compared to all of the collective bargaining agreements. So that includes the people in my office, the finance director, the director of public works, the police chief, the deputy police chief, and our permanent part-time employees. So those entities make up the non-negotiated wages, and in total, that is the 207,000 plus the contingency. So
So I had a question about, can I go first?
yes, but I got a minute, so go quick.
Oh, so we're increasing the contingency threefold to, from $13,000 to $50,000, just in case?
No. It started the year at $50,000. That's the adjusted budget based on
Got it.
transfers that have happened already.
Okay.
The original budget is $50,000 and has been,
All my tenure.
so I've been around for, this is my 17th budget. I think it's been that way for
Right.
13 of them.
So on the other line item, I took your 27th week, which represents 27 weeks times that number. That tells us what our annual,
It's 26 weeks plus.
yeah,
Not 27.
Right now, that's only a day and a half
I've-
or 2 days.
So your math is not right.
it's only a day and a half. What's our total, what's our salaries?
And like 60-something% of our budget.
So what's this percentage, how much, the 257, what percentage increase is it above our salaries?
Well, you gotta remember, 207 is tied to non-negotiated, so that's split between the police, the clerical advisors for
Right.
2 years, and the unaffiliated.
But then is it,
All the bargaining units that have no raises in
Yeah.
here.
I understand that, but then another 1% is just thrown on top, just to hand out to other people?
No.
That's
That's
what,
part of each of those.
our selectman just said that he added another note.
That's the unaffiliated piece.
Why we, so we're
Those
just,
are the people that he wants to give more money to.
I understand, another 1% of the budget goes to people.
No, it's not 1% of the budget.
You
It's
said
1% of the earnings.
1%.
It's not the same thing.
All right, so,
5 people, 7 people.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus the part-timers is,
There's 7
11.
of them, I think.
yeah.
all right, I took my minute and a half, so
All right.
I'll go ahead.
May I have a motion to adjourn this,
I'll move
please?
that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:01 PM.